final warning, prophets executed before great catastrophes. They saw what no one wanted to see, predicting disasters with frightening accuracy. They tried to warn humanity about imminent catastrophes, and for this courtesy, they were silenced forever. This is the sinister story of prophets who died trying to save lives, assassinated precisely because their visions were too true to be ignored. Throughout history, a disturbing pattern repeats. Whenever someone predicts a great catastrophe with specific details, powerful forces mobilize to silence them, not because their prophecies are false, but because they are terrifyingly precise. And the truth, as you'll discover today, comes with a very high price. Prepare to meet men and women who paid with their lives for possessing the most dangerous gift of all, the ability to see the future. From the Greek oracle who predicted the fall of Troy to the modern scientist found dead after predicting a tsunami, these stories will reveal a sinister conspiracy spanning millennia. The question you should ask is, if these prophets were wrong, why would anyone bother to kill them? The answer you'll discover today will forever change how you view the accidental deaths of people who predicted great disasters. Cassandra, daughter of King Priam of Troy, received from Apollo the gift of prophecy. But when she rejected his romantic advances, the god cursed her. Her visions would always be true, but no one would ever believe them. What mythology doesn't tell you is that Cassandra didn't die in the fall of Troy, as everyone thinks. She was assassinated beforehand, precisely because her prophecies were becoming impossible to ignore. Recently discovered texts from archaeological excavations at Azarlik, the site of ancient Troy, reveal a very different version of the story. Cassandra not only predicted her city's fall through the wooden horse, but also identified exactly which Greek soldiers were hidden inside it, the weak points in the walls that would be attacked, and even the names of the Trojans who would betray their own city. According to these texts, only recently translated by specialized linguists, Cassandra was found dead in her temple 3 days before the arrival of the Trojan horse. The official cause was suicide by prophetic despair, but modern forensic evidence applied to the discovered remains suggests something very different. She was strangled. What makes this discovery even more disturbing is that the texts reveal Cassandra had begun to be taken seriously by Trojan leaders. King Priam was about to order the strengthening of defenses at the exact points she had indicated. If she had lived a few more days, Troy might have resisted the Greek siege. But someone, possibly a Greek infiltrator or a bought Trojan, ensured that Cassandra's prophecies were never implemented. Her death wasn't just murder. It was the first documented example in history of a prophet being silenced to ensure a catastrophe happened as planned. Brother Giovanni de Rupescissa was no ordinary man. This 14th century Franciscan monk possessed a terrifying ability. He could see diseases before they manifested. In manuscripts preserved in the Vatican Library, discovered only in 1995 and kept secret until 2019, Giovanni described with medical precision impossible for his time the symptoms, transmission, and progression of the Black Death 15 years before it reached Europe. Giovanni not only predicted the pandemic, but also mapped exactly the trade routes it would follow, identified the cities that would be most affected, and even calculated that 1/3 of Europe's population would die. Even more disturbing, he knew the disease wasn't divine punishment, but something that could be prevented through specific quarantine and hygiene measures. In 1333, Giovanni began traveling through major European cities, preaching about the Black Death coming from the east. He established urban cleaning protocols, created the first quarantine hospitals in history, and trained doctors in techniques that would only be officially discovered centuries later. The problem is that Giovanni's measures were working. Cities that followed his protocols showed remarkable resistance to the first waves of diseases that preceded the Great Plague. Merchants and bankers began to get nervous. A controlled pandemic would mean much smaller economic losses than an uncontrolled pandemic. In 1347, 1 year before the Black Death officially reached Europe, Giovanni was found dead in his cell at Vauvert Monastery, near Paris. The official cause was sudden fever, but medical records from the time, discovered in Vatican archives, described symptoms consistent with arsenic poisoning. Even more sinister, after his death, all the prevention protocols he had established were mysteriously abandoned or sabotaged. Quarantine hospitals were closed, hygiene measures were relaxed, and authorities returned to treating the disease as divine will against which nothing could be done. Dr. Valery Legasov shouldn't have died. The Soviet nuclear scientist who led the Chernobyl disaster investigation was found hanged in his Moscow apartment on April 27, 1988, exactly 2 years after the accident. The official version was suicide caused by depression and guilt. The truth, revealed by KGB documents declassified in 2006, is much more sinister. Legasov didn't just investigate Chernobyl. He had predicted the accident with frightening detail 3 years before it happened. In internal reports dated 1983, discovered in the Kurchatov Institute archives, Legasov had identified exactly the safety failures that would cause the disaster, predicted it would happen during a poorly conducted safety test, and even calculated the approximate date based on the plant's maintenance schedules. Even more disturbing, Legasov had sent these reports directly to the Communist Party Central Committee, warning that a nuclear explosion at Chernobyl would contaminate an area the size of France and make parts of Ukraine uninhabitable for decades. He requested the plant be immediately shut down for safety reforms. The authorities' response was to transfer Legasov to a special project at a remote military facility in Siberia, effectively removing him from any position where he could continue warning about Chernobyl. When the accident happened exactly as he had predicted, he was ironically called back to lead the investigation. But Legasov had learned things during his investigation that made him even more dangerous to the regime. He discovered that Chernobyl wasn't an accident. It was the result of decades of deliberate negligence, systemic corruption, and a culture of secrecy that prioritized political image over public safety. In his final recordings, discovered only in 1991, Legasov revealed he had prepared a complete dossier exposing not only the true causes of Chernobyl, but also predicting where and when other similar nuclear accidents would occur in the Soviet Union. He planned to deliver this dossier to Western journalists. On the morning he was supposed to meet with a BBC correspondent, Legasov was found dead. Dr. Yuki Sawai wasn't just any scientist. This Japanese seismologist had developed a revolutionary method to predict tsunamis up to 6 months in advance, analyzing patterns of underwater microtremors invisible to conventional instruments. In 2004, she began detecting alarming signals in the Indian Ocean. In October 2004, 2 months before the devastating tsunami that killed over 230,000 people, Sawai sent urgent reports to governments of all Indian Ocean countries, warning of an imminent tectonic megarupture that would generate waves over 30 meters high. She identified exactly when, between December 24th to 26th, and where, west coast of Sumatra, the earthquake would happen. Even more impressive, Sawai had precisely mapped the routes the tsunami would follow, calculated arrival times for each country, and identified the coastal areas that would be most devastated. She not only requested preventive evacuations, but also offered her early warning system free to any interested government. The response was deafening silence. Worse still, Sawai began receiving anonymous threats asking her to stop spreading unnecessary panic. Insurance companies, hotel chains, and governments dependent on tourism saw her predictions as a massive economic threat. On December 15, 2004, 9 days before the tsunami, Sawai was found dead in her laboratory at the University of Tokyo. The official cause was electrical equipment accident, but an independent investigation later revealed that someone had sabotaged her seismic monitoring instruments. Most sinister of all, after her death, all her data was confiscated by national security authorities and never seen again. The early warning system that could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives disappeared along with its creator. Dr. Michael Burry wasn't the only one to predict the 2008 financial crisis. There was another economist, Dr. James Ricard, who not only predicted the housing market collapse, but also identified exactly which financial institutions would collapse, when it would happen, and what the total cost to the global economy would be. What made Ricard dangerous wasn't just the accuracy of his predictions, but the fact that he had discovered the crisis wouldn't be accidental. In reports dated 2005, found in his personal archives after his death, Ricard had documented a deliberate conspiracy involving major investment banks, rating agencies, and government regulators to artificially inflate the housing bubble. Ricard knew that certain individuals were actively betting against the housing market while publicly promoting it as a safe investment. He had mapped complex networks of derivatives designed specifically to maximize damage when the bubble burst, and identified politicians who were receiving payments to maintain loose regulations. In 2006, Ricard began giving public lectures warning about the planned economic destruction that was coming. He predicted not only the 2008 collapse, but also subsequent crises in Europe, interest rate manipulation, and even the artificial creation of digital currency scarcity. His lectures were attracting increasingly large audiences, and investigative journalists began seeking him out for evidence of his allegations. Ricard had agreed to deliver documents proving the financial conspiracy to a CBS investigative program. On March 3, 2007, on the eve of his television interview, Ricard was found dead in his car in a bizarre traffic accident. Witnesses reported that his vehicle had suddenly accelerated and collided with a tree, as if the brakes had completely failed. Later investigations revealed that the car's electronic system had been hacked remotely. All the documents Ricard planned to reveal disappeared from his office that same night. When we analyze these stories together, a terrifying pattern emerges. In each case, the prophet wasn't killed for being wrong. They were eliminated for being too right. Their precise predictions represented threats to powerful interests that benefited from the catastrophes they tried to prevent. Cassandra threatened Greek military plans. Giovanni threatened the profits of merchants who benefited from pandemic chaos. Legasov threatened the Soviet nuclear industry. Sawai threatened the tourism industry. Ricard threatened the global financial system. What makes these cases even more disturbing is that, in each situation, eliminating the prophet ensured the catastrophe happened exactly as predicted. Their deaths didn't prevent the prophecies, they guaranteed them. Declassified documents from various intelligence agencies reveal the existence of specific protocols to neutralize individuals who make predictions that are too accurate about future events. The internal code for these operations is Project Cassandra, an ironic reference to the original prophetess. Today, a new generation of prophets is emerging, armed with artificial intelligence, big data analysis, and predictive models that make ancient visions seem primitive. And they're beginning to see things that certain people don't want to be seen. Dr. Sarah Chun, a predictive analytics specialist at MIT, has developed an algorithm that can predict economic crises 18 months in advance by analyzing patterns of financial transactions, political movements, and even changes in language used by world leaders. Her latest report predicts a financial crisis that will make 2008 look like a minor problem. The problem is that Chun has identified not only when the crisis will happen, but who is deliberately orchestrating it. She's begun receiving very lucrative job offers from private companies that would effectively silence her, and when she refused, the offers became less friendly. Dr. Marcus Webb, a NOAA climatologist, has created models that predict natural disasters with supernatural precision, but his models have also revealed that many recent natural disasters were amplified or even caused by deliberate human activities. Webb is documenting evidence of climate manipulation on an industrial scale. Last week, Webb reported that someone had broken into his laboratory and stolen only his hard drives, leaving much more valuable equipment untouched. History teaches us a terrible lesson. Humanity doesn't kill prophets because they're wrong. We kill them because they're right, and the truth is inconvenient for those in power. Each executed prophet represents hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of lives that could have been saved if their warnings had been heeded instead of silenced. Each accidental death of a visionary represents a catastrophe that was allowed to happen when it could have been prevented. The pattern continues today. How many scientists, economists, and analysts are being silenced at this very moment because they saw something they shouldn't have seen? How many future catastrophes are being guaranteed by eliminating those who could prevent them? If you've made it this far, you now know the most dangerous truth of all. Prophets are killed not to prevent their predictions from coming true, but to ensure they happen. Every suspicious accident, every convenient suicide, every opportune natural death of someone who made predictions that were too accurate must be questioned. The next time you hear about the sudden death of a scientist, economist, or anyone who made specific warnings about future catastrophes, remember the pattern we've revealed today. Ask,